Hello, aimbot. This is Lizzie, and we're going to go have a two-part presentation here. We're going to have a strategy and scouting presentation first, and then we're going to have a drive team presentation. I'm going to start with a little bit about me. I was a member of Shockwave 4488 for 3 years, from 2015 to 2017. I did a little bit of mechanical work. I did some programming work, and I did a lot of match strategy and working on the pick lists. I was also a member of 6443 aimbot, your guys' team, Liberty, from 2018 to 2019. I was the programming lead in 2018. I was a team captain in 2019, and I was the drive coach both of those years. And I was the head for the match strategy, and I did a lot of work on the pick lists. Currently, I'm studying biochemistry at OSU. I'm currently engaged. This is my fiance, Micah, in the picture. I'm trying to help strategy and drive team remotely on Discord. So feel free to message me. I'm sure you've already seen some of my messages. I'm happy to help. All right, so our agenda, this first part will be the strategy and scouting. You can see some big takeaways here. And the second part, we're gonna have a drive team meeting, and that will be mostly directed to the drive team. So this should be everyone interested in drive team strategy scouting. The other one will be just drive team. All right, we're gonna have a quick overview of quals and eliminations first. Qualification matches, there are 10 to 12 matches per tournament. You get random partners and random opponents. This allows you to assess the other opponents at the tournament. Would anyone make a really good partner? Would anyone make a really fierce competitor? Is there some team that's just really hard to work with? Is there some team that meshes very well with you? Are there some teams that are are there some teams that would make a very good competitor? You can look at if someone's a really good defender, if someone's very defendable. You can get a lot of good information about the other robots, and then also makes the seed list for eliminations. And they make these based on rank points. So rank points are very key. This is what gets you into eliminations. In elimination matches, you get the first 3 8 seeds. They all choose their alliances together, and then you have brackets out 2 out of 3. These matches are going to be a lot more competitive, and they're going to usually be higher scoring. All right, so, and then we have scouting and taking notes. So you often want at least a couple of people in the stands watching all the other robots and being able to take notes on all of them. This can be very helpful if you're doing pick lists, but also just if you're playing matches, it's good to know who you're against, who you're with, if someone's gets a lot of fouls, if someone's broken, if someone's a really good defender, someone just scores a lot of points. So it's a good idea to have at least several matches per team to watch. These can be, a lot of this is up to you. It can be very basic notes. It can be more in depth. But you want to have, rough amounts of how many points they score. Did they score 2 cargo? Did they score 6 cargo? Their capabilities, can they climb? Did they climb? How well did they climb? If they're broken, please mention if they're broken, and please tell drive team if they're going to play with or against them, and how they're broken, if they were just dead on the field, if their mechanism got ripped off. It's good to watch for defending, because that's definitely a hard one to get just from looking at the scores. Does someone defend really well? Does someone defend really poorly? Does someone hold up really well in their defense? You can look for fouls, you can look for cards, and you can look for just overall driver competence. Do they look pretty comfortable with the robot? But whatever you do, you need to find a system that works for you. This could be one piece of paper per team that everyone shares around. It could be everyone has their own list of each team and notes, and you all compile them together. It could be a digital form. It could be whatever you want, but find a system that works for you. And it's very, very up to you guys. And then you definitely want to send someone to a drive team before every match with any info on the teams they are playing with and against in the next match. So again, if you know someone's broken, please tell them that. If you can say, oh, both your partners have been proven to climb, that can really help. Or if your opponents have been proven to climb, that might change how many points you need to win the game. Consider more generally what wins or loses matches and gets RPs. So because you're just watching all the matches, you can tell if the points are pretty low scoring, if they're really high scoring. If a lot of people are getting the RP, if no one's getting the RP. And yeah, are people mostly going for the low goal? Does that get you more points overall? Do people go for the high goal? How much defense is getting played? Is it effective? Are people climbing? This is all important stuff to know, just to know how much effort you need to put on the field to win. And if you're watching and taking notes in the stands, please take breaks. Please enjoy it. You should be enjoying your time watching robot matches. There's going to be a lot of breaks in between matches. So, have snacks, joke around with each other. I don't want it to be a chore for you guys. And know how to recognize fouls and tech fouls. They'll usually explain at the beginning of the tournament to the drive team, but just know the fouls are the refs waving the flag at the robot, and a tech foul is waving the flag at the robot with their arms crossed into an X afterwards. I can demonstrate this for you on Saturday if needed. All right, so that was all in the stands. And then strategizing before a match is usually a smaller group of people strategizing. You want to assess the capabilities of each partner. This includes if they're damaged that match. Sometimes robots are usually really good, but they happen to be damaged, and that's going to change your match strategy. I also consider the opponents. Especially in qualifications, consider if there's any way to get the RP. If you know that you're highly likely to win, then you usually want to try to get that RP because that will help you rank high in the game. If you know you're going to lose, maybe try to get the RP still so you can get 1 point instead of 0 points. If it's a really tight race, if you don't know if you're going to win or not, keep the RP in your back of your head, but the winning is still 2 rank points versus 1. So know that. Consider how to maximize your score. This is both earning more points yourself and preventing the opponent points. So, playing defense on the opponent if you have a robot that's not scoring that much. If you can, shooting the high goal can get you double points, but if you're shooting and missing a lot, you might just need to go for the low goal. And then before a match with your team and with the other teams, you should have a clipboard with a picture of the field on it. And here with all your teams, you can go over auto locations and auto paths. So you don't hit each other, and you all know where to set your robot up at the beginning of the match. You can go over climbing and endgame locations again, so there's not too much congestion. Everyone knows what's going on. And then going over general strategy for the match. Is someone defending? Is someone shooting the high goal? Is someone using that the launch zone safe zone, or is no one using that? That can be good to know. Just general ideas of what you plan to do that match. Do you plan to go for the rank point, or do you plan to just go for high score? Those are very different things. If someone is going to be defending, definitely direct them to 1 or 2 opponent robots. This can be very helpful. If you know that you're against a team that can score a lot of points, you definitely want your defender on that team and not on a team that, is in the corner, not actually doing anything. So it's good to tell them, hey, this robot scores the most points, you should defend them, or these 2 robots are the ones you should focus on. That's very helpful. And then make sure all of your alliance partners and all your drive team are comfortable with the plan and very familiar with the plan. You don't want people changing the plan mid-game because they decided they didn't like it, and you could have known this beforehand and talked about it. And you want everyone to know what the plan is, so when you're in a match, you're not getting very confused. And then consider ideas from all sources. I definitely think this is important. Definitely hear out all of your alliance partners. Definitely hear all of your aimbot team members. You don't have to take advice from every person. You can't take advice from every person if they're conflicting, but definitely consider ideas from everyone, because sometimes it's people will surprise you with ideas that they have that you didn't think of first, and that's great because now you have an extra idea that could help you win the match or get a rank point. Remember, when you're strategizing before a match, that game strategy will evolve, and be ready to adapt. If you start out sending a defender every single match and then you realize, wow, no one's scoring enough points for a defender to really be worthwhile, maybe instead they should be trying to get another cargo too, and maybe you can get the rank point. Or vice versa. You stop sending a defender, and then all of a sudden people get really defensive, and you got to counter that. Things will evolve. No one really can predict how the game will evolve, but you just got to be ready that things will change and adapt, and you got to remember that in your strategy, that it's never a fixed strategy that will win you every single match. That doesn't exist. Also, just know that some matchups are going to be hard. Some matchups are just going to be like nigh impossible. But you always need to strategize to win and or to get a rank point. Never just say, oh, it's a lost cause. Why even bother feeling that a robot? Like, please go to the match. Please try your all. You never know when someone will completely die on the field in the first 10 seconds. That's happened to us. You never know when someone's gonna go from not doing very good the last 3 matches to do very well in your match. That's happened to us. You never really know what's going to happen. So please strategize to win and strategize to get the RP. So if all goes well, you could get that. All right. Now we're going to go to how to make a pick list and how to advertise to other teams in qualifications. If you're in the top 12 for sure, you definitely need a pick list. While only the top 8 captains will be making an alliance, oftentimes the people in the top 8 will pick each other because, you know, number 1 is going to pick the best robot for them, and that might be number 2 or 3, and now the 9th seed is now in a picking position. So definitely, if you're, you know, 12 and up, you should definitely make a pick list. If you're, you know, 14, 15, you should be considering it because it's possible. So first, when you're doing a pick list, consider what you need from your partners. Don't just assume that everyone who's a high scoring robot is going to be what you need. Consider, you know, do you want them scoring in the high goal? Because someone can rank really high and only score in the low goal, and that's going to get you half as many points. Can someone climb? Is your climbing compatible with them? Does someone play really good defense? Do you need that defense robot? You know, does someone hold up really poorly from defense and you don't think that they'll compete very well in eliminations? You got to consider all these. And then, so once you have like an idea of what you want from people, consider all the people ranked above you, and consider, only if you're in a picking position, consider if you would say yes to them or if you would decline them. Remembering that if you decline someone, you can't get accepted by anyone else. So you definitely don't want to decline someone if you're seed 20, because then you just won't compete. But if you're seed 6, you could decline the seed 4 team if you don't think that they would make a good partner for you. But, you know, make a yes or a decline list. And then you want to go through all the rest of the robots. I find it easiest to start with the very bad robots and make a quote avoid at all costs list. I find this very helpful because you're kind of working from the bottom up. And so you remember that you only can have so many people on this list. You can't have half the event on this avoid at all cost list. So for example, Wilsonville has 29 teams. And so if you rank number 1, you can only fit 5 teams on that avoid at all cost list. If you rank lower, you can have a couple more, but you got to count backwards and assume that everyone on your list is picked and you have to have someone else to pick. How to put people on this list? If there's a robot that just never has driven, never has even been put on the field, please don't pick them. If someone is getting fouls all the time and you've tried to talk to them and they're very uncoachable and they just don't understand or they don't care, that's definitely not someone you want to pick. If someone's very difficult to work with, to the point that you're pulling your hair out and they're losing matches because they're not following the game plan, that might also warrant them to be on this avoid list. So I like to start with people above you, make a yes or no list, and then start from the very bottom and make a definitely no list. And then I work middlewards. So your first pick, consider who you want. Consider who's a high scorer that matches your strategy, and just go down the list. You're just going to be ranking people. There might be some disagreements. By the end of the day, you need a list. And then your second pick, again, you need to consider your strategy more. For example, in 2019, we were a defending robot and we were often a captain. So we didn't want to pick a defending secondary robot, even though a lot of other alliances were. We needed someone who was high scoring, but a lot of other teams needed one high scoring robot and one defender robot. So think about what you need for your strategy. This might include climbing, because climbing is a lot of points. This might include defending. This might include getting a lot of balls in the high goal. And make sure to make a list ahead of time. I would prioritize doing this Friday evening after the tournament, because it's pretty much right after lunch on Saturday that they start a limbs. And so before lunch, you're going to need a whole list so that they can go and make your alliances. So you need to have this ahead of time. So that's how to make a pick list. I can go over extra details or extra questions on Saturday if you want, but this is kind of my general thoughts. In quals, if you're ranked low enough that you know you're not going to be a captain, you're not going to be a pick list, you're not going to be making a list, then you kind of just get to sit pretty and hope that someone who's good picks you. There's a couple of things you can do to try to bend this into your favor. This is definitely not guaranteed, and this won't work for everyone, but drive team, please be easy to work with. Be competitive, but don't be too pushy with your ideas, because if teams don't want to work with you, they won't pick you. But you need to be competitive. You can't be so laid back that you're not even trying on the field, because they're not gonna like that either. You just need to put everything on the field, be likable, joke, just don't be an ass, pretty much. And then in the pit, your pit people need to know the robot's capabilities accurately. Like, you guys all need to know our robot can do 5 cargo in the high zone if that's what we do during our match. And you need to know that. You don't want team members making random numbers out of their head. Oh, you can do 10, talk to another person, we can do 4. Oh, we can do 2 and 3 in auto. Like, no. You guys all need to be consistent about what your robot can do. And this includes climbing, this includes defense. If you had practice defense, or you've done it in a previous match, or your drivetrain is good for defense, your pit people talking to other teams need to know your capabilities. And they need to be willing to uptalk this capabilities, but you don't want to go far enough that you're lying or you're exaggerating, because if you say you could do double what you actually can do, people are just going to be disappointed. And then lastly, this goes for both of these, pick lists or trying to advertise. Don't make promises to any team. You never know when something's going to come up and you're going to change your pick list, or you're going to accept or decline. Don't make promises. Don't really accept promises. Like, that's just usually ends poorly from my experience. All right, now we're going to go over Wilsonville and Oregon State Fairgrounds, your 2 first events. And we're going to talk about the quote big name teams that you need to know. So Wilsonville is 29 teams. And one of the first ones you need to know is Area Code 01425. They are based in Wilsonville, Oregon. This is their tournament. This is their school. This is their field. You will be seeing them a lot, setting up the field, tearing down the field, just running around everywhere. They're often very competitive. They really try to like they take themselves very seriously. They play very competitively. They often rank high. Even if the robot is not the best, they have some on and off years, but even if their robot's not very good, they play very well on the limbs. They make very good strategies. They push their robot really hard. They're very competitive, and they know what they're doing on the field. I'm going to go back and preface all of this real quick. These are all historical, what we know about these teams. I highly encourage you to watch these teams at Clackamas and other tournaments to see how they actually do after a year and a half of COVID. But this is all historical, either from the 2020 when some teams had 1 tournament, like here you can see they ranked 7th and they were a finalist, or from 2019, or even maybe 2018, 2017. But this is the general. They're usually ranked very high. They usually go to Worlds. Most of the teams on this highlight list go to Worlds every year. Not to say that they can't have a down year or someone else have a really good up year, but this is the general. You should know their name and you should know their number, and that you should know that they're likely to be in the limbs and do very well. Okay, so that's 1425. Second, we have Flaming Chickens, 1540. They are also competitive. They build very high scoring robots, so that are focused on the rank point. So they will rank very high because they focus on the rank points more than a lot of other teams do. But they do not always perform the best in eliminations, which is interesting. For 3 tournaments now in a row, they ranked first and lost in semis. So not to say that it's a curse or it's going to happen again, but just know that while they're competitive and they rank very, very high, they sometimes need a bit of guidance in eliminations because they tend to struggle there. But usually they're very good. They're a very nice team. They're a competitive team. They're a good team. 2046 Bare Metal. They're from Washington. They are very competitive and they build very good robots. If I was to put my bets on who won Wilsonville, this would be my bet. Not to say you guys won't, or you won't pair up with them or whatever, but historically they've built very good robots. And here you can just see it. This is all from 2019. They were a winner 4 times, and the one tournament they, including at Worlds, they were a division winner. The only time they didn't win that year is they subbed themselves out because their robot broke. So at least 2019 and 2018, they were a very good robot, and they have very good autonomous routines. Most teams, if they say they can do 3 balls in auto, like, you should scoff at that. That should be ridiculous, especially their first tournament. But Bare Metal, like, they will probably do that and more. They just write very good autonomous programs. All right, so that's Bare Metal. 2471 Meme Machine, they're also from Washington, but they mostly play in Oregon events because they're kind of on the border. They will build either very good robots or above average robots. Sometimes they're sometimes it's a bit off, but they'll still rank in the top 5 or 10, and it'll still be a good robot, and they still take themselves very seriously, and they're very competitive. This is the other team at Wilsonville that has very good autos, and if anyone's going to do a 3-ball autonomous, it's going to be Team Meme Machine and Bare Metal. Yes. All right, and then I think this is the last one for Wilsonville. Is 2990 Hotwire. They're often like a first pick because they can often do a lot of scoring very fast, but they don't always rank the highest because they don't always focus on the rank points. They're often a finalist or a winner. They're competitive, but from my experience, they're much more laid back competitive. They build fast and simple robots, and they're usually nice to work with, but they're not going to be as diehard competitive as, for example, Error Code is. That's just, they have slightly different team philosophies, I guess. Alrighty. And that was all the teams. That was the big teams you should watch out for at Wilsonville. Those, was it 6? Those are definitely the ones you should look out for. Of those teams, 3 of them will also be at your Oregon State Fairgrounds. So you'll be working with them for both of your tournaments, both of your initial tournaments. So Error Code, Meme Machine, and Hotwire will be at both of your tournaments. So if you notice one of them is doing very well or one of them struggling, know that this will likely carry on to the next event. All right. Oregon State Fairgrounds has 27 teams. A couple other teams you should know about is 2811 Stormbots. They're from Washington, Vancouver. They are either very good or average. That's just how their team historically is. Some years they'll be winners, they'll be finalists. Other years they'll be mid-pack. So you really gotta watch them at Clackamas and Sudnome. This will be their 3rd tournament. This will be the only robots 3rd tournament at the Oregon State Fairgrounds. So definitely watch them at their first 2 to see kind of where they land compared to all the other robots. Also a thing to note, this team historically has a mentor drive coach. I will talk about that a little bit in the drive team meeting, but a few teams tend to have a mentor drive coach every year, and this is one of the few teams that does. So just note that. Again, I will talk about the implications of that more in the drive team meeting. All right. Another one is 3674 Cloverbots. They have the green hat with the stripes, a very fun mascot. It's literally a giant hat suit. They're also from Washington, but they'll often come down to Oregon. They're more laid back competitive, kind of like 2990, and they'll build high scoring robots. They usually play limbs well, and they don't always rank the highest, don't always focus on the rank points, but they play well. They play very well. Okay. Nerd Herd 4043. This team is gonna be hit or miss. Most years they've not been very competitive, but 2019, the last year they played, they were very good. They had very good drivers. They had a very simple robot. They were very high scoring early season. They were ranked very high at their first couple tournaments, and they got through, they got into and through a limbs at their first 2 tournaments. But you're definitely gonna have to watch them at Clackamas to see if they're gonna continue that streak, or if that was just kind of a one and done. They happen to have some good drivers and they happen to build a nice simple robot. This is one of the few that I'm highlighting that I'm not positive that they will rank in the top 10 per se. Okay, I think this is the last one on the Oregon State Fairgrounds is 4488 Shockwave. This is the other Hillsborough team. Historically, as in the last like 4 years, they win their second district event, and they will almost always rank in the top 5 of their district events. Again, not to say it's guaranteed or a curse or a jinx or whatever, but that's just historically what they do. This team is extremely competitive. I would say that they probably take themselves seriously the most out of all of the Oregon teams. They have, I would call, excessive scouting. They have lots of people in the stands watching every single robot during every single match, using an app that they build themselves to record all the data and then send that data to the match strategy people in the pit. And then they will use that data to talk very assertively with their match strategy, because they have a lot of data about what teams have already shown that they've done, and so they will usually use that to push their own, what they think will win the match. I say that I consider them difficult to work with. I've talked to people on other teams who consider them difficult to work with. I'm not trying to put my own biases in here, but just know that they're going to come with a tablet of all your data and 3 different strategy people all talking about strategy like 4 matches ahead of time. And they're going to be pushy with their own regard. Not great every year, but I think that they could be one of the that they either might have a good year, or they tend to be top-ish in the rankings. I'll just list some of them real quick. The 900 teams, which is 997, 957, and 955, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's 3 of them. They will be at both your tournaments. They're usually mid-ranking. They build simple robots. Maybe 1 to 3 will do well. Pig Mice is also at both your tournaments. Hedgehogs, Generals at both your tournaments, Steampunks at both your tournaments, and then you can read Orf and Lake Monsters and Chaos Theory. On the left side, we have the Stars, and that's all the teams that will be on their second event. Almost all of them, or maybe all of them, having Clackamas as their first event. So that includes all these teams listed at the bottom. This includes Flying Hedgehogs, and this includes 1540, the Flaming Chickens from earlier. So you definitely want to watch Clackamas, because a lot of these teams, you can already see what the robot looks like, how they tend to do in the rankings. If they have a climber, for instance, like you get to see a lot of what they do. So I definitely recommend strategy people keep an eye out on Clackamas before you go to Wilsonville. Oregon State Fairgrounds, the only team was 2011 that this will actually be their 3rd event. this means a couple of things. This means, one, you have 2 events to watch them. 2, this event won't count as any points to them. So if they, for example, won the event, that doesn't get them any more points closer to champs. Usually teams are still fairly competitive on their extra events, but this is definitely a thing to keep in mind. All right, I have some final notes about tournaments here. All right, first of all, I've mentioned this before, I recommend people watch Clackamas Week 1. I can't recommend this more. Please, if you're really into the strategy, if you're really into the scouting, if you're really into Drive Team, at least look at the results, at least. If not, watch the live stream, watch the matches. A lot of teams overlap for Wilsonville and Oregon State. I did not list which ones overlapped for Oregon State Fairgrounds, but definitely a lot of them overlap for Wilsonville. I would even recommend, if you're into it, take a couple of notes. Is there someone who happens to be a good defender? Is there someone who, scores a lot of things? Just keep some notes in mind. I think that would be very beneficial for the team. Another more general note: most teams do not make huge improvements between tournaments. If you see a team from a previous tournament, chances are they're going to do about the same, maybe a bit of improvement at the next tournament. This does not go for every team. Again, some of those more elite teams I talked about earlier might be redesigning their entire route between tournaments, but most teams, it's going to be maybe a little bit of improvement, but that's about it. Especially the Clackamas one, because that's only a week of time between the tournaments. So if you see them at Clackamas, that's probably about what they're going to look like in most of them. I also highly recommend you to get familiar with the team names and numbers. I know it's a lot. I know it's overwhelming. Even I, after 5 years, struggled with the team's names and numbers always, but it's very helpful and just good to know. Kind of going off that, I also recommend people download the app of the Blue Alliance. There's also a website, the Blue Alliance. This allows you for quick references of team numbers and names. You can just type it in. I was like, oh, that's the Generals, 3636. That's what that team number is. It also tell you match results. You can look at any tournament across the world and see who won, who lost, what the points were, if anyone had fouls. I definitely highly encourage you to get this app, play around with it, use it. I've found it very useful from my own experience. Those are my final notes about strategy. As I've stated before, I will be there on Saturday, the 29th, to help discuss. I'll have a Q&A session. As always, I'm on Discord at Lizzie Milford. Please message me for any questions of any kind. I want you guys to do well. I really love all the strategy and the Drive Team, and this stuff really gets me excited. So I'm happy to help. I'm sure there's something I missed. I'm sure there's something you're very confused on or want me to go over again, or just want me to talk more about. So please talk to me on Saturday. Send me a message on Discord, and I will see you there, or I will see you for the Part 2 Drive Team meeting. The video after this.